The final night of March and the final session of the second round in the NCAA Gymnastics Regionals. This is Magnus Arena in Denver, Colorado, where 4 teams are competing for 2 spots in the regional final that will also be held here on Sunday. I'm Steve Schlanger with Ashley Miles-Grieg. Earlier today, it was LSU and Oregon State booking their spots in the final. Now 2 teams from our night session will join them. Michigan, Denver, Minnesota, and Arizona are the 4 teams looking to complete the final 4 of this regional final in Denver this year. The only other regional taking place here today is over on the east side, where it's Pittsburgh. And now California, Michigan State, Florida, and Arizona State all locking in their spots for their regional final on Sunday. But Ashley, the big news to come out of the Pittsburgh regional is the injury to Florida's Trinity Thomas.
Yeah, and of course you're happy to see Florida made it through to that final session, but I think collectively as a whole, college gymnastics fans are going to be really keeping in touch with the news to find out what that injury was. She wasn't able to complete the meet, and hopefully we'll see her compete in the final.
All right, because we have 4 teams all competing simultaneously, we have every event going at exactly the same time, so a lot happening. We've got 4 different screens. Sit back, it's a perfect couch night. Digest it and take it all in. We'll guide you through the rush hour traffic here, with Arizona beginning on vault, which will be in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Minnesota on the bars, that'll be upper right. Denver, the host school here at this Denver Regional. The Pioneers will start on floor, which is the bottom right-hand corner. And the highest seeded team here, number 3 Michigan, they begin on beam, which is in the bottom left. And Ashley, as things get set to commence, what sticks out? What are you watching for early in this 4-team competition?
I think the key here is really going to be to watch how these teams settle into this environment in a postseason regional with a lot on the line. You know, nerves can get the best of you, so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that pressure. I think Denver is floor is a good starting spot for Denver. They're the home team. They're used to this arena, and Alexandra Ruiz is used to this leadoff spot, and she does a very good job in it.
Ashley, you are a multi-time national champion in an event like this where everyone goes in unfamiliar orders in terms of the events. What did you like to start on the most, and what was the biggest challenge in going first on?
So the biggest challenge is the balance beam, and we just saw the first competitor for Michigan, Carly Bauman, fall off on her flight series. So beam is one of those events that typically can be, you know, very like nerve-wracking. It's only 4 inches. You've got a lot of energy. You're souped up. So it's really important to have a solid lead-off performer on this event, especially when there's so much on the line. So already some pressure on Michigan on the balance beam, because again, they're going to want to drop the score.
Carly Bauman, the junior from Des Moines for Michigan, all Big Ten second team this season. She missed all of last year because of an injury, but does have a career best of 9.925 on the beam.
Yeah, she finishes off the routine nicely. Top left on the vault, nice Yurchenko full. Of course, Arizona had to compete yesterday, so this is their 2nd day in a row. They were part of that group of schools ranked 29th through 36. They had to compete in that play-in, so they had to earn their spot here in round 2. So it's a tall order for that first-round team to make it all the way through the final. I think the closest it's ever come to happening is Stanford at Washington Regional last year. Actually made it into the final from that first round. So pretty difficult to do.
Arizona beat North Carolina last night to earn their spot here in this second round 4-team competition. And just the challenge of competing in back-to-back nights. They would have a day off tomorrow if they can make it to the final, but then you're talking about competing in 3 out of 4 days, which is certainly a heavy lift, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. I mean, week after week, these athletes are putting their bodies on the line. Gymnastics is a grueling sport on the body. I mean, you see all the injuries, and it's a dangerous sport, so it's very important to stay rested. Recovery is top-notch. It's got to be top of mind for these coaches.
Already Arizona on the vault, posting scores in the 9-7 range. Soraya Johnson, meanwhile, who was first up on bars for Minnesota, excellent start for the Gophers. She had a 9-9. The freshman from Woodstock, Georgia, her first ever taste of NCAA postseason competition, and she comes out of the box hot with that 9-9 score.
Yeah, that's got to feel good. Get them off to a strong start like that. And here we are, bottom left. I'm going to be focusing on the beam routine from superstar Gabby Wilson. A little bit of extra pressure on here. Let's see how she does.
Tied her career high this year on the beam with a 9.975. She's also all Big Ten first team for the 4th time in her career here this season.
Flight series by Handspring layout, very solid. She's really focused up there. Has more of an aggressive beam style. She works through the skills, very sharp. Standing switch leap, just a little bit off there. Slight deduction with the balance check. Top left, just saw a huge Yurchenko 1.5 from Arizona, and she nailed that vault. And that's going to be a good score. Another thing to keep in mind.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I was going to say another thing to keep in mind as Gabby finishes with a difficult double tuck dismount is in the postseason format, it's a 4-judge panel. So unlike head-to-head matchups during the regular season where there are 2 judges, there are 4. They drop the high score, the low, and average the middle. So a lot more difficult to come up with those big numbers in postseason.
Arizona off to a slow start over on the vault. A pair of scores in the 9-7 neighborhood, then followed up with a 9-6-7. So trying to pick things up here after coming out sluggish in their 2nd consecutive night of competition. And I would say that Malia Hargrove certainly just did the trick. The senior from Sparks, Nevada, who has their top score on vault this season, just came through with a 9.95, highest score so far across the board here tonight.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful vault too. I mean, she definitely earned that mark. Again, Minnesota, top right, they are really honing in on the landings on these last few routines for them, which is going to be key on the bars. It really comes down to execution, handstands. They want to get those good positions and also stick the landings. Bottom right.
EY for Denver over on floor, meanwhile, also with the 9-9. So a good start for the home school in the Pioneers.
Oh yeah, what a way to start your regional off as the home team on the floor exercise. Lots of energy. They can just let it all out and just have fun here and just make sure they control those landings.
9.225 and 9.85 in the first 2 beam routines for 3rd-ranked Michigan. And there you see the floor scores for Denver in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. While for Arizona, the Wildcats on the vault, coming off the 9.95 of Hargrove, trying to get them on track, and a pair of 9.9 so far on bars for Minnesota. The Gophers coming out strong as well.
They're over there getting it done on bars. Huge release move. Again, she'll transition into an overshoot. I feel like she separated her legs a little soon on that. That could be a deduction, but hits that last handstand nicely. Full out in the tuck position, just a slight hop back on the landing, so doesn't get that landing, but otherwise a pretty clean routine for Minnesota on bars. And again, bottom left, you just saw maybe some more nerves, a big bend at the waist from Nicoletta Koulos. 1.5, doesn't give anything away on the landing. So again, Michigan just staying on the equipment. That first athlete fell. They're going to want to drop that low score and staying calm and getting it done.
That was a 9.225 for Carly Bauman, which they will hope to drop. Meantime, for Minnesota, the 9.9 for Soraya Johnson in the leadoff spot on the bars was a career high. And Gianna Gertis also with a 9.9 a few moments ago. That has tied a career high, so don't sleep on the Gophers. A record of 10-6-1 coming in, ranked number 18 in the nation, and they had won 3 in a row right before the Big Ten Championships, where they finished 3rd last week.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that has really worked on their consistency in building throughout the season, week by week. So I'm impressed with how they're coming out here on this bars rotation.
So vault is finished for Arizona. As a result, we drop down to just 3 screens here. It is Minnesota on top on the bars, bottom left, Michigan on the beam, and bottom right, Denver, the host school, with the Pioneers on the floor. Now we do have Julia Noer from UNC, who is still to come on the vault, and she's competing as an individual in the all-around, and that's one of the unique aspects of these NCAA regionals, is the fact that you can qualify as an individual athlete and come even if your team doesn't qualify, and if you score high enough, you can continue advancing in the postseason.
That's right, because athletes that qualify as individuals really looking forward to taking advantage and trying to earn their spot at NCAAs. Good beam routine going.
It is always the top all-around gymnast that is not on a qualified team, plus the top individual in each event that makes it here. And all of those athletes will be coming at the end of each rotation. So they will go after the schools have completed each time through on every event.
Sierra Brooks looking really good on balance beam right now. She's really calm up there, working her way through this routine. And when you have that level of experience that Michigan does, back handspring double full, gets the landing. Again, another good routine. But that experience can go a long way in the postseason. They've been there.
Sierra Brooks, the senior from Plainfield, Illinois, for Michigan. 2 consecutive Big Ten Gymnast of the Year awards. She has been terrific once again this season. 14 titles, 4 in the all-around this year alone.
So many accolades, and Maya Hooten at the top on bars just completed a pretty good routine. You know, that anchor spot for her is new this season. I mean, she's worked really hard to clean up her routine and find the landings more often, so that was a good way to close them out.
Prior to Hooten in that anchor spot, it was a pair of scores in the 9.8 range.
Very clean floor pass. Denver hasn't scored below a 9.9 since the second competitor on the floor, so they're rocking and rolling.
Jessica Hutchinson, the all Big 12 athlete and the Big 12 Gymnast of the Year here this season as well, the junior from a town just northwest of Philadelphia.
Yeah, and actually joined the 10.0 club this year, scoring a perfect 10 on the floor. So really exciting for her.
Abby Heiskell, the grad student from Charlotte, North Carolina, now on beam for Michigan. Big Ten all-around champion each of the last 2 years, and on the all Big Ten first team for the 3rd time here this season.
Yeah, and she's just a fierce competitor. And she's always on point, like very tuned in, and really gets the job done.
Heiskell coming off a terrific Big Ten championship. She won 3 titles and had a perfect 10 here on the balance beam.
Yep, and a little bit of break there on that series back handspring layout. You see the front leg came up, so a pretty sizable wobble there. So again, Michigan giving some tenths away. But again, it's so difficult to start on the balance beam in this environment. So they just need to be one of the top 2 teams to advance to the final.
And just a moment ago, a 9.95 on the floor for Jessica Hutchinson, taking us to the final competitor for Denver, Lindsey Brown, who was the NCAA co-national champion on the floor from back in 2019. She's on the right-hand side of the screen.
Big opening pass, nice double layout. E-level makes it look so easy. And you can just tell she's so comfortable with this routine. This is actually one of 2 athletes that does a tribute routine. This is 2 former alumni that are black gymnasts that she cites as role models. So she has really kind of done some of their choreography from both the routines. So I'm sure those 2 alumni enjoy watching her compete this routine in that tribute to them.
Meanwhile, Natalie Wojcik will be the final competitor on beam for Michigan on the left-hand side of the screen.
Natalie, one of those textbook athletes, has very beautiful gymnastics. Probably one of the prettiest toe points as well. Anytime her foot leaves the floor of the equipment, it is extended all the way out. And got really loud there while she's on beam at the conclusion of Lindsey's routine, which was amazing.
And very tricky, too, because you're on the beam, the event that maybe requires the most concentration, and the home school, with all of their fans in this building, just finished a terrific first rotation on floor, so the crowd is going crazy. So difficult for Wojcik to stay in the moment.
Absolutely. Triple flight series, back handspring layout. And when that crowd erupted, you did see just the slightest little balance check, but other than that, this routine has been flawless. She's one of those athletes, she has scored a perfect 10 on this event in her career.
She's 7th in the nation on beam this year and has been an NCAA champion on this event as well. So she's the one you want in a situation like this to anchor the lineup.
Absolutely. Just a small hop forward on the landing. So I would say Michigan made it through that beam lineup. They made it through. They had that fall early that created a little bit more pressure for the remaining 5 athletes that had to go, but they got it done. It wasn't as clean as they would have liked for it to have been, but they can, I think, move on and be proud of that performance.
But Denver is going to come away as the leading team after the first rotation. They just completely stole the show. 5 consecutive scores of 9 or higher, and the Pioneers lead here at home. We bring you back to Magnus Arena in Denver, where the night session in the second round of the Denver Regional is underway, and we are moving to the second rotation of the night. The host school, the Denver Pioneers, with the lead after the first rotation, blowing the doors off this place and asking everybody else, you want this kind of smoke? You came to the right place, out west in Denver. Steve Schlanger, Ashley Miles-Grigg. Boy, what a performance by the Pioneers. 5 straight scores of 9-9 or better, and they did that with only 1 career high in the process. It's their second best floor score of the season and 4th best of all time.
Well, first, Steve, I love your summary of Denver's floor performance to start out this meet. I mean, they came out swinging, and they took advantage of this home crowd and just did what they know how to do. I think Michigan, they got through that beam rotation. It's difficult to start on the balance beam, and then you've got Minnesota, who just really, was able to find a lot of the landings, and I think capitalized and caught some tents here and there. So Arizona, had that 1.5 Yurchenko that was just beautiful. So yeah, I think we're in for an exciting remaining 3 rotations in this session too.
All right, before we get to this second rotation, let's take you back through some of the highlights from the opening rotation here. And let's begin with Arizona and the Wildcats, who started off on the vault, Ashley.
Yeah, here's that 1.5 vault. I mean, it was massive and beautiful. I mean, there was very little you could take there. Maybe a little. I mean, honestly, in watching the replay, I don't know where the other half 10, that could have been easily a 10. So, I mean, Arizona, 2 days in a row, she really found that landing.
Minnesota also extremely strong and starting off with a career high from Soraya Johnson on the bars.
Yeah, and this was also in the leadoff spot. So this got Minnesota off to a beautiful, beautiful start. You know, to have that huge of a score, you see she really honed in on the landing and did not move, and they went on with the momentum.
Meantime, number 3 Michigan, as you said, Ashley, getting through the balance beam, which is always difficult to start off on.
Yeah, Sierra Brooks did a really good job here, like the veteran that she is. She's got plenty of experience in those pressure situations, going 9.95. I mean, even with the other mistakes from her teammates in this lineup, she was able to shine and not give much away at all on this excellent beam routine.
And the Pioneers just tremendous across the board here on the floor from start to finish.
Yeah, Jessica Hutchinson really with that 9.95 set up her teammate Lindsey Brown to go same score after her. Scored a 10 for the first time in her career, and I think she's just taking that and running with it. I mean, her confidence is just as high as it can ever be, and you know, she's having a good time out there and performing beautiful gymnastics. It's fun to watch.
All right, so Denver has the lead. Michigan sitting in second right now after the first of the 4 rotations. As you see some of the key moments from that first rotation. And Michigan at the moment in a qualifying spot for the regional final. Again, you just have to finish in the top 2. And they've done that and then some over these last several years under the guidance of Bev Plotke, who has been the head coach for over 3 decades. She is a 2-time National Coach of the Year and 11-time Conference Coach of the Year. They've won 4 Big Ten titles, were the national champions just a couple of years ago. They have just been tremendous. And coming into these postseason competitions, they had won 8 in a row leading up to the Big Ten championships, which they won again last week for a conference-leading 27th time.
Yeah,
not bad,
stellar
actually.
Results. Not bad at all. Just, I mean, great results for Michigan. They've really been dominant, and they've been honed in this entire season and very consistent. So hopefully they can continue that.
And as we start this second rotation, you've got Denver on the vault, upper left-hand corner, Michigan on the floor, which is bottom right. Minnesota moves to the beam in the bottom left, and already starting on the bars, Arizona in the upper right-hand corner.
Stuck dismount for that bar routine. Always a good thing. Don't give any tenths away on the landings, for sure.
And Denver with Bella Mabanta first up on the vault, followed by Jessica Hutchinson, then Lindsey Brown. So 3 marquee names at the top of their vault order. Denver also coming in pretty hot, like Michigan. They had won 6 in a row before the Big 12 championships, where they placed second. They also set a new program team high score back in early March, beat a record that had previously stood for 2 decades in the process.
Wow. I'm honed in on the bottom right. Nicoletta Koulos on the floor exercise for Michigan. She's just stunning and beautiful on this event. And cool thing is that she's Greek, so they always pay homage to her Greek heritage by putting something in the choreography that reflects that. So you kind of see that.
She's one of the captains, also one of 5 kids, and it's very much a family affair when it comes to Michigan. Her sister was on the dance team here. Her brother is a senior here. And another brother of hers actually played baseball for the Greek national team. So celebrating the Greek heritage and their Wolverine heritage as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of history in the family. Denver on vault really is going to want to hone in and try to find those landings. I know they've got a lot of energy, a lot of momentum going into another power event, so they're really going to need to try to find those landings. Jessica Hutchinson did a 1.5 twist, Yurchenko, and really not the cleanest landing. So hopefully Lindsay coming up behind her can do a little bit better.
I would think, actually, the good news for the Pioneers, they started so well on floor, but it's really been vault and beam that have been so strong for them recently, setting program record final NQS scores here at the end of the season. And those weren't even one of their opening events here, as they began on floor instead.
Right, absolutely. And also on vault, I mean, they've competed 4 10-0 start values for the first time. This season, so that's really, really good for them to have that opportunity and increase their scoring potential on this event. There's a Yurchenko 1.5. You could tell she was going for that landing and ended up coming up a little short and under-rotated, having to take a step back. So again, I would always much rather see them do more than less.
It was Lindsey Brown, the grad student from Kansas City. So far, Denver with a 9.825 and a 9.775 on vault.
Minnesota bottom left on balance beam. This is an event that they've worked so hard to really play with the lineups and make those improvements.
The Gophers had a season's best score on the beam at the Big Ten Championships just last week.
She really fought to keep that flight series on the equipment. Bottom right, huge Arabian double front, stuck, didn't lunge out of it at all. That's how you show off that pass on the floor. Position on those leaps on the balance beam. Top left, Yurchenko 1.5, and she was off from the round off. She didn't get the block that she needed. Shoulders were closed. She was a little bit off center, and that wasn't going to get to her feet at all. So unfortunate fall there for Denver, but again, they just need to make sure that everybody else hits.
That's Rosie Casali. Prior to her, Lindsey Brown with a score of 9-8 even. Michigan, though, coming out with a robust opening floor routine a moment ago from Nicoletta Koulos that scored 9.925, and now Abby Heiskell trying to follow that up.
Yep. So Michigan's going to have an opportunity to compete with those same judges. So if they can be as clean as we know that they can, they have scoring potential from the first person in their lineup to the anchor for Michigan. They're so good on so many of these events. I mean, they're ranked number 3 in the country right now on the floor exercise for a reason.
They are top 10 in every category. 3rd on floor, 3rd on bars, 7th on beam, and 2nd on vault, which has been their best.
And that number 2 ranking on the vault stems from, kind of like Oklahoma, being able to find those landings. They have a knack for just drilling those 1.5 Yurchenkos and fulls that they do.
So the score for Casali on the vault for Denver was only 9.175, so that's going to be the one that they will hope to drop. They'll have to keep the 9.775 from Jessica Hutchinson a short time ago.
That's a good way to come back. Clean Yurchenko full. Just a slight hop on the landing. Doesn't really quite get as much distance from the horse as you see some of the bigger vaults, but again, very clean.
Meanwhile, Abby Heiskell for Michigan, the 2-time and reigning Big Ten all-around champion, just had a 9.95 on the floor. So they've gone 9.925, 9.95 with the first 2 out of the gate on floor for the Wolverines.
Now we've got Natalie Wojcik, who can score that easily if she hits this routine. That or better. 1.5 twist front layout. Good combination, legs glued together, controls the landing. Good toe point in position on the leap combination. And that's a stuck Yurchenko full top left on vault for Denver, so not giving anything else away these last few vaulters up.
They can't afford any more slips.
Yeah, they're ranked inside the top 10.
That they'll be dropping.
Natalie double pike. Had to take a step forward on that as opposed to lunging back. Whenever an athlete does that, wherever their momentum is taking, if they step the opposite way, that can be an indication sometimes of being a little bit under-rotated. Kind of hard to see from the angle we had, but nonetheless, that's going to be a big score for Michigan.
Natalie Wojcik, the grad student from Pennsylvania, closing in on 100 career titles. That's how good she has been since the moment she stepped on campus.
That's a lot of titles.
It is. She'll be followed by Naomi Morrison. Meanwhile, EY, who finished off on vault for Denver a moment ago with a 9.85. So it was Ruiz and EY, the final two vaulters for the Pioneers, both with a 9.85. The two highest scores in this rotation on vault for Denver after some slip-ups earlier in the rotation. And that was Lali Lekanoidze of UNC, one of those competitors who qualified individually coming at the end of the rotation.
Yeah, that was a good, clean vault. I mean, she can do that all day, every day. Yurchenko full starts from a 9.95. She's so good on this event. On floor. Huge opening pass. Full in. It's more like a half in, half out. She executes it so well.
Of Morrison's 4 titles this season, 3 have come on floor. She's ranked 17th in the nation on this event.
And she's had 5 straight scores of 9.925 or higher. So what does that tell you in terms of her scoring potential? Good triple flight series on the balance beam. And she used the entire beam. I thought maybe she was so close to the edge she could have stepped off.
So the vault is done for Denver. We're down to 3 screens. Again, Arizona on the bars at the top, Minnesota bottom left on beam, and Michigan bottom right on floor, where the Wolverines are just rolling here in this second rotation. They have not been below a 9.9 yet.
Yeah, that's huge. And this is what they've done all season long. So they've really kind of settled in this second rotation on the floor exercise. You see there, double tuck to end, chest down, and step forward, so a little short. So we'll have to see what the judges score that routine with that last pass. Stuck landing for Minnesota on the gainer back pike. And she's ecstatic about that performance there. Really knows it was good.
The Gophers have been steady so far on beam in this second rotation. All other scores in the 9.8 range.
Yeah, it's important. You can't just assume that the top-seeded teams, even though on paper it says like these are the ones that should advance and go through, but you never know what can happen.
Boy, through these first 2 rotations, the floor has been the marquee stage of any event. First with Denver, now with Michigan. We've had 9 scores collectively, and none of the ones that have counted have been below a 9.875.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty strong there. This is Sierra Brooks from Michigan on the floor exercise, bottom right. Already went 9.95 on beam, has the potential to score big. Really showed off that opening pass. No lunge, Does a full in and nails it, just drills it. Goes above and beyond on that position, on those leaps and that combination. Tiarisal is on beam. She was off. And with as much as she wobbled there, she did stay on the equipment. It's probably with the deduction going to be close to a fall. Plus, she's not going to get that connection for that combination. But she needs to continue just to move through this routine and give as little away as possible. Great floor routine, another good set that's going to be a good score, and unfortunately not the strongest beam performance for Minnesota. They really, really need to be on their A game to stay in this.
Yeah, even though the previous gymnast, Abby Nyland, had a season's high of 9.85, they've had nothing higher than that so far, and probably won't get one here with one athlete left to go in this second rotation on the beam, while for Michigan, the hot start has just rolled on and gotten even better. Now Sierra Brooks finishing her routine, waiting for her score. Gabby Wilson, the senior who was born in Ann Arbor, will be the anchor on this floor exercise here coming up momentarily. It'll be Maddie Quarles on the beam for Minnesota on the left, and Gabby Wilson on the right on the floor for Michigan. Interesting when you look on the left-hand side for Quarles, who is a grad student from Minnesota. She comes from the town of Andover. She was actually a transfer from the University of Denver, so started her collegiate gymnastics career in this very building, competing for the Pioneers, now returning in postseason competition for her home state Gophers.
One last deep breath. Big double pike on the floor. Her teammates are really into it. A little different in postseason because your teammates are corralled off behind that section there, so they're not right up on the floor. So you really have to bring the energy and let them know you're there for them.
And more energy, no doubt, once they saw that Sierra Brooks just got a 10 on the floor for Michigan, our first 10 of the night.
Yes, I love it. I mean, the way she's showing off those passes, you know, just nailing them 2 feet together, pretty spectacular.
What a rotation for the Wolverines.
Yep. If they took that momentum that Denver left over on the floor, picked it up and ran with it.
Depending on what Wilson gets, consider this, Ashley. The score they may be dropping here on the floor is a 9.85.
Yeah, that's big. Oh, and just a step back after the back handspring gainer dismount for Gianna Gertis. Good routine to close out the beam rotation for Minnesota.
So it looks like Minnesota will probably be dropping a 9.5 from Sale. She went right before Gertis. Meanwhile, for Michigan, they get the 10 from Sierra Brooks. The first 3 on the floor went 9.9 or better. Then Naomi Morrison had a 9.85, and we're still waiting for the score for the anchor position, which was held down by Gabby Wilson, the senior who was born in Ann Arbor, truly a hometown girl for the Wolverines. All Big Ten first team selection for the 4th time in her career here this year.
perfect 10. I mean, there have been a lot of perfect 10s in college gymnastics this season, and even in the postseason. There's so much, the level of difficulty, talent, and execution of the gymnastics has just gotten to be so remarkable. And it's great to see these athletes being rewarded when they go out there and just leave it all on the floor.
So Gabby Wilson with a 9.925. So 4 scores of 9.9 or higher, 1 a perfect 10. Terrific. Second rotation for the Wolverines as we hit the halfway point here of this second round evening competition. Meanwhile, this evening, it is the final session in the second round here at the Denver Regional. We're moving into rotation number 3 momentarily, but some other news from around the other regionals. Number 2, Florida has advanced to their regional final. Trinity Thomas, though, was injured during the floor routine. Number 7, Cal had to rally to make it into the regional final. And number 10, Michigan State also moves on, advancing to their second consecutive regional final as well. Meanwhile, here in Denver, we are halfway through it. 2 rotations down, 2 left to go. Michigan leading Denver as the host school Pioneers right now in the top 2 as we take you back to their performance on the vault in rotation 2.
Yeah, and they had a couple of really good, clean Yurchenko fulls right when they needed it in a time they didn't really give anything away. You see there, just really found the landing and had good position.
Meanwhile, for the Arizona Wildcats, the team that had to win last night to make it here to the second round, this was Emily Mueller with a career high on the bars.
Yeah, difficult to go 2 days in a row, but they seem very energized and are really just trying to put together the best possible meet they can. She does that in the leadoff spot on bars, beautiful double layout, and drills that landing.
And for the Michigan Wolverines, tying a season's best team score on the floor and the second best in program history.
I mean, what else can you say from Sierra Brooks? A perfect 10 on the floor. Anytime you get that 10, it's so special. And you see there, I mean, she just drilled all those landings, showed them off, didn't move the feet, and just, you know, kind of made this Denver home crowd her own.
So this is what has happened so far. A few of the highlights through the first 2 rotations. At first, it was Denver off to an incredibly sprightly start on the floor. They were just terrific in rotation number 1, and then somehow Michigan did even better on the floor than the Pioneers did in rotation number 2. And now we switch things up as we move into the second half of this competition. Rotation number 3. Michigan over on vault, which is upper left-hand corner of the screen. The host school, Denver. They're on bars in the upper right. Minnesota moves down to floor, bottom right, and the Arizona Wildcats on the balance beam in the bottom left. Again, Michigan is leading halfway through it. Denver in second place. You have to finish in the top 2 to qualify for the regional final back here in Denver on Sunday night.
Look at Natalie Wojcik on vault. Yurchenko 1.5, almost got the landing. She tried to control it, but just had a little bit of the momentum going back and had to take a slight small step backwards. But Michigan has all 10.0, ability to do all 10.0 start values, so their scoring potential is very high.
Michigan, number 2 in the nation on the vault at this point in the season, is their highest of any event in the national rankings.
Yeah, and Alexandra Ruiz on bars for Denver is so used to being in that leadoff position. She's been in that spot for the majority of her 5-year career here at Denver, and she's gone as high as 9.95 this season in the leadoff spot. So again, bars is a good event for Denver.
That's their best event in terms of ranking. The Pioneers 7th in the nation. So both Denver and Michigan on what is statistically their best events here in rotation number 3 as they battle in the top 2 positions in the standings at the moment.
And we'll see if Minnesota can take advantage of those floor judges over there and execute nicely. Marissa Jinks just finished off her opening leadoff routine, and this is a new event for her this year. She was a backup last year, and she's really done a great job. She's earned her spot in that leadoff position.
Natalie Wojcik for Michigan led off on the vault with a 9.825. Alexandra Ruiz first up on bars for Denver with a 9.875.
Yeah, that's a great leadoff score for Denver on bars for sure.
And Ashley, you mentioned the generous judging on the floor so far this evening and wondering if Minnesota can take advantage. How about this? Denver went on floor first. Michigan followed in the second rotation. And so far, those two schools have the top two floor scores in the NCAA regionals so far this weekend across the country.
All right, so they're in there on floor tonight. So Minnesota has an opportunity to showcase what they can do because, of course, the judges are seeing the routines from each athlete in these routines. So it'll be interesting to see how Minnesota scores and if they can take advantage of that, if they compete to the best of their ability. Obviously, they have Maya Hooten in their anchor spot, so she's one of the superstars, one of those athletes that you don't want to miss on floor. She's been perfect several times in her career. Top left, Naomi Morrison for Michigan on vault. Huge Yurchenko 1.5. And again, they have the ability to find those landings on vault, which is why they're ranked #2 in the country on that event. No different there.
And just before Naomi Morrison, Gabby Wilson had a 9.925. She's coming off a share of the vault title last week at the Big Ten Championship, so carrying that good form here into the NCAA regionals.
Yeah, you kind of get the feeling that Michigan is dialed in. You know, after that kind of shaky opening rotation on the balance beam, they've really come back strong.
And it's interesting, Ashley, isn't it, as you would know as a national champion, how even though it can sometimes feel like an individual sport, there's only one competitor out there at a time on every event, just the way your teammates perform can help elevate you as well when it's your turn.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's what makes college gymnastics so much fun. Because gymnastics, you know, prior to that, it really is an individual sport. They're not your friend, but here, like, you're competing for the next person up. Like, you want to do well for your team. Another beautiful vault. Doesn't get the stuck landing, a little bit of momentum going forward, but wow. Gets good height, good distance.
And that was Sierra Brooks coming off her perfect 10 on the floor and following up Naomi Morrison, who had a 9.95 on the vault just ahead of her. Best score so far for Michigan on the vault this evening.
Yeah, that vault is so clean, even with a little bit of the over-rotation in the landing. There's not much else there to take, so it'll be interesting to see how the judges score that vault.
An opportunity for Michigan and Denver really to separate themselves from the rest of the field here in this third rotation. But Denver so far on the bars, starting off with a 9.87, and then Rosie Casali just coming through with a 9.75. So the Pioneers looking to improve on those numbers as they move through rotation number 3.
Yeah, for sure. Rosie Casali, I was keeping an eye on her bar routine prior to that. The score was so low because she just had some really major form breaks in her release moves, like very big leg separation. So the judges, it was big enough to where they could see it from the side as well.
Sierra Brooks had a 9.9 on vault. Here's Abby Heiskell.
And again, she kind of tried to finesse that landing. It was almost a controlled stick, very minimal movement. So again, 10-0 start value, good position in the air, good block, good distance, and that'll be another good score for Michigan.
Heiskell, the grad student from Charlotte, North Carolina, already has a pair of perfect 10s on vault in her career. And prior to Heiskell, Michigan with 3 scores of 9.9 or better in a row here on the vault in this rotation.
Wow. Great routine going for Minnesota on floor. Mariah Johnson, really strong on this event.
Kaylin Morgan on vaults for Michigan.
Yurchenko full, 995 start value, so that would be the highest she could score if she was perfect, and she just really kind of got through that vault. It wasn't, you know, the best vault. It wasn't the 1.5 that we're used to seeing, but that'll be a decent score. But of course, with every other score being so strong, outside of Natalie Wojcik, 9825 to start off with, that's another strong rotation for the top-seeded Michigan.
Yeah, so Michigan has finished on vault. Pending Morgan's score in the anchor spot, they've had 4 straight scores of 9.9 or higher. If she can maintain that standard, they'll drop the 9.825 from Wojcik in the leadoff spot.
And Arizona on the balance beam, bottom left, has really done a good job of putting up some solid 9.875, 9.8, 9.85. If they could really, in this back part of their lineup, those scores start to build. This could be a good team score for them on this event.
Of all the teams coming into this regional, Arizona was probably on the shakiest ground. They had only 1 win in 7 competitions coming in here. Only 3 wins on the year, but a huge victory over North Carolina last night to make it to the second round this evening.
Yeah, really had to fight all season long to be in a position to have a chance, and they did that. So I think that you build on that from year to year, and you know, hopefully we'll see them get better and make it even further next season.
I tell you what, Ashley, what's getting interesting here with Michigan cementing their spot in first place. They're done on the vault in rotation number 3. We're down to the bars, the beam, and the floor. And things are going to get pretty fascinating between Denver and Minnesota in the race for second place, because Denver has been losing some ground on bars, while Minnesota has been very steady on floor and coming off a 9.9 just a short time ago from Soraya Johnson.
Yeah, and Kylie Rorick, who just went for Denver on bars, watching her routine, it's not going to be a good score. So again, I think your assessment is right on point, that this could get really interesting in that second spot. She had a really big break on a handstand. She did not fall, but she arched very, very big and had to fight to keep it from going over. Minnesota scores building. Beautiful double pike. Lindsey Brown routine for Denver on bars at the top, getting going. Good combination, Shapash, Pack Salto. Maloney half, or Van Leeuwen up to the high bar. Very nice executed routine. Denver definitely needs this. Let's see if she can find the landing on the double layout. And that's how you do it. That's the kind of experience that comes into play. This is her 6th season at Denver on account of receiving a medical red shirt. So really excited to have that experience in their lineup, and she shows why right there.
Big sigh of relief, too, because they had 3 straight scores in the 9.7 range after a leadoff score of 9.87. Meanwhile, Minnesota over on floor with the judges who have been very kind so far this evening, with a pair of 9.85s to begin, then a 9.9. Gianna Gertis just finished her routine a few moments ago, the all-Big Ten first team selection and junior from the state of Ohio, and still waiting to see what her score is going to be.
Yeah, she had a beautiful routine, so I think that the judges will appreciate what she did. It's very nicely executed. Balance beam, a 1.5 dismount, so Arizona's still continuing to rack up some good beam routines.
Meanwhile, next on floor in the bottom right for Minnesota is Haley Renlinger, the senior from Winona, Minnesota, who has had a perfect 10 on floor here this season.
Jessica Hutchinson on bars for Denver, getting her routine underway. This needs to be good. Maloney Pack Salto. half pirouette to transition to the high bar. Big opening pass for floor for Hallie Rimlinger. And dismount on bars. Exactly what Denver needed to do from their anchor. Jessica Hutchinson shows why she is a champion and gets it done to close out the bar lineup for Denver.
Just before her, Lindsey Brown had a 9.95, by far the best score of this rotation on bars for Denver. Hutchinson trying to back that up and keep the Pioneers close because Minnesota has been gaining ground on the floor. Gertis right before Remlinger here with a 9.925.
Yeah, they really needed that routine because Minnesota is building on scores on floor and putting up some strong routines.
Good routine from Remlinger, who had a 9.9 on the floor last week at the Big Ten Championships. And for Jessica Hutchinson, a 9.875 in that anchor spot on bars for the Pioneers.
So again, Maya Hooten is going to close out Minnesota's floor lineup. She's no stranger to this. This is one of the premier floor routines in college gymnastics, and you really can't take your eyes off her once she gets started. She just brings it and is so clean on this event. Again, she's been perfect in her career. She has the ability to score perfect 10, so we could possibly see that here tonight in this session.
She has 2 perfect 10s this season, is the Big Ten floor champion from last week and an All-American on this event. Remember in the last rotation, we saw Sierra Brooks of Michigan get a perfect 10 on the floor for the Wolverines.
Lali Dekanoidze, individual competitor on the uneven bars, just did a remarkable routine. Open up. You see, just makes everything look so easy. Very good, controlled landings, no question about it. Side straddle fold, gets that all the way around. Also very good position in those leaps and jumps. Front pike. Talk about technique. That second flip and that combination rose higher than the first one. So that's a good indication that she was right on point at the perfect angle she needed to be at. This is a great routine for Maya. Closes it out, stays inbounds, huge double tuck. And she puts the crown on.
She has been top 3 in the nation over the last 3 months on floor and finishes on a high note here, trying to make it 4 straight scores at the back end of this rotation of 9.9 or better for the Golden Gophers.
That's exactly what Minnesota needed to close out the floor lineup. She delivered on that routine.
Minnesota looking to overtake Denver for second place. Michigan really galvanizing their spot at the top of the standings here in rotation number 3.
Julia Noer, another individual competitor from North Carolina on the balance beam. She's really good on this event. All around here tonight. Split jump 3/4 in combination, good position.
Meanwhile, on the right-hand side of the screen, that's Maddie Diab of Iowa State, one of those individual competitors who is competing on the floor after Minnesota collectively as a team have finished their rotation here.
She's a specialist on this event. She earned a 9.95 at the Big 12 Championship and won that title for the second straight year, and you see why. My goodness. E-level pass in combination, a front double full front layout. That pass is so difficult. I mean, your technique has to be on point to make sure you get that twist off the way around in a tight position to keep the momentum going forward. When you're a specialist, you might as well be special. That's what I say. Front layout, front full, stag leap out of it. I'm liking this routine.
She has the building to herself, the only routine going on at the moment at Magnus Arena.
All smiles, eye contact, really showing that personality, having fun in this arena tonight. Front 1.5, back layout, beautiful landing. She floated that back layout out of the Rudy. I think the judges will appreciate that routine if their scoring is any indication. That was very clean.
And the big scores on floor continue. Minnesota, the latest to take advantage. They had two athletes tie a career high, one equal a season's best. And it is tight in the race for second place. With one rotation left to go, Michigan is the clear front runner. They have a solid lock on first place, but Denver and Minnesota just 2/100ths apart. 0.025 is the difference between second and third.
Yeah, things just got real interesting here.
So, one rotation left to decide. The two teams go into the regional final. Michigan looking good. Denver and Minnesota. It's a race for that final spot at the Denver Regional. As we come back, we jump right into the highlights from the third rotation, beginning on the vault with Michigan.
Naomi Morrison, she's been a standout all year long. Finds a way to hone in and find that landing on the Yurchenko 1.5 twist. Only thing I saw is a slight leg separation in the entry, but other than that, super clean.
Meanwhile, for the home team, Lindsey Brown for the Pioneers tying a season high on the bars.
Yeah, anytime you can tie those season highs in the postseason when you have a 4-judge panel, I think it's just so much more significant. She shows here why she's a veteran. She has so much experience and came through when they needed it.
While for Arizona, the Wildcats spent rotation number 3 on the balance beam.
Yeah, Arizona put up a good beam rotation, highlighted here by Jessica Castles, went 9.875. 2 days in a row competing. I mean, to come out here and really hone in and fight to stay on this equipment. And this was a beautiful routine. She executed very well. Double wolf turn, so difficult.
While for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, they inserted themselves into the equation for the top 2 over on the floor.
Yeah, Gianna Gerdes here has had a spectacular night and really set up the back half of this floor lineup for some big scores. They took advantage of the judging here and executed flawlessly.
And also Hallie Remlinger with a 9.925 on the floor as well.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I mean, they were just in the zone in these two routines, both going 9.925, really putting themselves in a position in this forced rotation. It's going to be very interesting. double pike, double tuck, excuse me, to end that off.
All right, so Denver led after the opening rotation on the floor, but ever since it's been all Michigan. And as we go to the final rotation, Michigan has a sizable advantage at the top, but remember, this is about finishing in the top two, not necessarily winning, because the top two teams at the end of the night move on to the regional final here on Sunday. Steve Schlanger, Ashley Miles-Gree, glad to have you with us on this final night in the month of March and the final rotation in the second round. All of the other regionals are done. Their regional final fields are set. We just need two more teams to fill out our bracket here in Denver. What's going to decide it here in this last rotation in your mind, Ashley?
I think what's going to decide it is who gives the least away. I mean, we already talked about Michigan kind of being solid in that front spot. They just need to execute to the best of their ability on the uneven bars. But Minnesota is right in there, 2/10 behind Denver. So it's going to come down to the wire. I think that the ranking, Denver probably has a little bit of an advantage over Minnesota. Minnesota obviously is going to finish a lot quicker on vault, but they're going to have to find those landings.
So, again, this is where we stand. Going into the final rotation, Michigan safely at the top of the standings. They look like they're going to be in a position to get the win. They'll be on bars. Minnesota and Denver separated by hundredths of a point. Barely noticeable in the race for second place. Minnesota is on vault. They're in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Denver, the host school, they're on beam in the bottom left, while Arizona is in the bottom right, finishing up tonight on floor.
Abbey High School just finished a beautiful bar routine, and your Chinko full, 995 start value. So small hop back, doesn't quite get as big of height as you would like to see on that vault, but it'll be a solid score.
In that race for that second spot between the Gophers and the Pioneers, Minnesota here on the vault this season, ranked number 14 in the nation. It's one of their top events. But for Denver taking their turn on the beam, this has been a very good beam squad. They are 8th in the nation. They set a program record for NQS score on the beam this season and had their second highest postseason beam score in history just last week at the Big 12 Championships.
Yeah, so they've got the momentum coming in to this regional round on the balance beam. A little bit of an edge on the ranking and scoring potential as well. And Lindsey Brown just drilled that opening set for Denver on the balance beam. So hopefully they can just keep it going. Top left, we're gonna check out the vault. Huge Yurchenko full, step back on the landing. Again, they need to find those landings.
Marissa Jenks, first up on the vault for Minnesota, only with a 9.7. Not the start they had hoped for. While Abbey High School on the bars for Michigan, 9.95 in the leadoff spot.
And Gabby Wilson just, I thought maybe those knees were going to buckle, but she fought for it on that double layout. It was a pretty deep squat, but that's a stick.
Gabby Wilson with a career best 9.95 on bars here so far in 2023.
Bella Mabanta really good on this event. She's doing her flight series, bottom left, that handspring layout, just solid. And Denver doesn't really even seem to be phased. For the first two competitors up, you don't see any nerves. You see them out there being aggressive, going after these beam routines. Slight balance check, but again, brings it back, fighting for every 10th.
And for Denver, terrific start with Lindsey Brown on the beam, a 9.95 for the grad student from Kansas City. So right now, advantage to the Pioneers.
Absolutely, and another stuck dismount. That's 2 sticks in a row. 1-2 for Denver on balance beam. Tuck 1.5. Very, very good vault. That's about as clean as I've seen her do that. Just a slight hop forward on the landing. And you'll start to see the scoring opportunity for Minnesota on the vault increase on the back half of their lineup with those 10.0 vaults.
Interesting the way this sets up, Ashley, because with Minnesota and Denver obviously facing the pressure of trying to nail down that second and final spot in the standings, you would think the beam would be an event where that intensity and the pressure would be magnified. But for Denver, it's one of their best events and maybe the one they were hoping to be going to in order to manage this sizable moment like we have here.
Absolutely, I think I agree with that. I mean, and they're showing it. I mean, you're looking at each athlete as they step up to prepare to go on the apparatus, and they just seem so calm. Like, she even has like a little smile there. Take a deep breath. She's like, it's almost like we're just in the office. This is what we do in practice every day, and that's what you want to see in this environment. And also when they have away meets, you close out on beam as the visiting team, so they also have that extra layer of experience with that as well.
Pioneers off to a good start here in this final rotation. Lindsey Brown has tied a career high. Bella Mabanta has matched a season high with a 9.875. While for Minnesota so far in their first 3 scores on the vault, no one has matched one of those Denver scores over on the beam. So the Pioneers in a good spot here.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for Denver if they can continue on this trajectory. That vault that we just saw was a huge 1.5, but she took a really big step forward, bounced out of it. You know, that was Gianna Gertis, who has had a remarkable night, and first break on balance beam, we just saw fall. So maybe we should have kept our mouth zipped, Steve.
Alexandra Ruiz here. You had to believe the drama will go down to the very end, though.
Oh, yeah. And Michigan just racking them out, routine after routine, on bars, as you would expect. Toe shoot to blind, double tuck, very beautiful combo into the dismount, just a step back. That'll be another good score.
So, once again, a reminder, the real drama in terms of the battle for a spot in the regional final is on the left-hand side of the screen. On the top as well as the bottom. On the vault in the upper left-hand corner, that is Minnesota. Bottom left, that is Denver. The Pioneers on the beam, the Gophers on the vault. The 2 teams separated by hundredths of a point coming into this final rotation, looking for that second place finish that would get them to the regional final behind Michigan, which has been running away with it through the last few rotations.
And that vault for Maddie Quarles there, it can get interesting. That was a huge Yurchenko 1.5. Very well executed. That's what they needed right now on vault, is to find those landings. So they got one more opportunity to put up another big number, and with a fall from Denver, this still, like you said, could be interesting. That puts the pressure.
Now for Maddie Quarles, she's already had a 10 on vault this season. She's a second-team All-American on the vault. Grad student from Minnesota, but transfer from the University of Denver. So back here with the Golden Gophers at a building she used to call her home gym. Hoping that the Gophers can come back here on Sunday for the regional final. And Quarles just posted a 9.925, best score by a mile here for Minnesota on the vault in this final rotation.
And also, I know I'm still keeping an eye on Michigan. Just had a really big break for Sierra Brooks on bars, unfortunately. I mean, she was just rocking and rolling all night. She arched over out of her overshoot, and Maya Hooten, top left. She went for it. A little bit of form, a little bit off center, but really gets good height, and just going to be the slightest deduction on that landing. So we'll see where they stand after that.
Maya Hooten, a Big Ten champion on the vault, second-team All-American, the sophomore from Woodbury, Minnesota, finishing off this final rotation for the Golden Gophers, who have been very good here, trying to secure that second and final spot in the regional final. While for Denver on the beam, they're going to have to come from behind now, as Alexandria Ruiz, who was up on the beam in the last time through the roster, was scoring a 9.175, so a score they're going to want to drop.
for sure. They're definitely going to want to get rid of that score. And Callie Schultman she did her job. She stayed on the beam. I don't think it was her best routine. A couple little balance checks and a pretty sizable step on the dismount, but again, they just need to be clean.
Callie Schultman just finishing her beam routine for the Pioneers, the senior from Minnesota of all places, now going up against the Minnesota Golden Gophers here tonight. Schultman had a career high on the beam at the Big 12 Championships last week of 9.95. This is Abby Thompson, bottom left, next up for the Pioneers.
And Natalie Wojcik currently going for Michigan on bars, one of the most beautiful release moves in college, does the Jelchev. You don't see that very often, but the height that she gets is just remarkable. Dismount, double layout, drills it. Beautiful routine and an exclamation point for Michigan. They are fired up over there.
What a night for the Wolverines.
Yeah.
And for Wojcik, one of their captains who's had 8 titles so far this season. And Maya Houghton on the vault had a 9.925. So Minnesota ends with a pair of 9.925s and their final 2 athletes of the night here in this last rotation. We're down to Arizona on the floor on the right, Denver on the left on the balance beam with Abby Thompson here.
Side aerial, back layout, 1.5. Small hop forward. Again, that's a strong routine. Exactly what they needed.
So 1 athlete left to go for Denver. It's Jessica Hutchinson on the beam. While for Minnesota on the vault, they're going to drop a 9.7. Every other score is 9.8 or higher. Hutchinson, the junior from just northwest of Philadelphia, who's had a perfect 10 on beam so far this season. Comes from a very distinguished family. Her mother and grandmother competed in the Olympic Games for Bulgaria. Her grandfather was an Olympic coach for Bulgaria. And Hutchinson,
Good opening pass.
the Big 12 Gymnast of the Year on 2 occasions. Now it's down to her for the Pioneers on beam.
Yep, and it's a story that gets replayed time and time again in this position. This is the athlete that you want. This is the athlete that you want when that extra pressure's on. And so far, so good. Arizona's killing it on the floor. They've got 3 scores of 9 or better for their first 3 athletes. So again, these floor judges are showing their appreciation for clean gymnastics on the floor exercise. Beautiful, does that with legs extended, the kick over front. A lot of times you see gymnasts do it in the tuck position. Full off the side and sticks it. Doesn't give anything away on that routine. That was clutch. That was clutch. That's going to be a big score. This is going to be close.
Jessica Hutchinson, the all Big 12 performer, a gymnast of the year, an all-around champion at the Big 12 championships in that anchor spot. And the All-American trying to deliver when the Pioneers need it most here as the host school trying to make it to the regional final in their home building on Sunday nights.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see once they drop that 9.125 score and what it's going to be replaced with. Looks like it's a big score. You can hear the crowd cheering, so we'll see what it's going to be. 9.75 for Natalie Wojcik on that bar routine. Unbelievable. It was a beautiful routine. And Jessica Hutchinson goes 9.975. That was a huge score.
And that should do it.
That did it.
As we do the quick math here, that is going to be enough for the Pioneers.
Nice full in, opening pass. Has the sting mat in, just to add a little bit of extra cushion to absorb on the landing. Layout half front full. This is a great routine. I mean, Arizona has put together a spectacular floor lineup. They have an opportunity to score big here for them. Nothing lower than a 9.85. Wow.
So while Arizona finishes on the floor, it is official that Michigan and Denver are going to be the two schools that advance to the final on Sunday. Minnesota, despite a valiant effort on the vault, unable to keep pace with the Pioneers.
Yep. But again, Minnesota should be very happy with the performance that they put on tonight and how they executed. Just wasn't quite enough when it was all said and done. Lots of relief.
Minnesota had two scores of 9.925 and their final two athletes on the vault. Denver was stumbling early on in their final rotation on the beam, had a 9.175, but came back at the end through Jessica Hutchinson's 9.975 to clinch that spot and get into the top two alongside the top team Michigan to advance to the final. Julia Noer of UNC competing in the all-around as an individual here. Last up on the floor and last competitor of the night here in the second round.
Yeah, Julia Noer has a really fun, different rock routine that showcases her personality. And she also has some pretty big tumbling, so I think we're in for a great performance. I mean, this crowd is fired up because their home team and host of this regional is going to be competing in the final on Sunday, so hopefully they'll share that energy with Julia here on this floor routine.
Pioneers faced a lot of pressure, especially when you're the host school. You want to make it to the final. You don't want to watch four other schools compete in your home building, and they faced a real test from Minnesota going into that final rotation. Those two schools were separated by hundredths of a point going down to the final event, and Denver came through to lock down their spot.
Yeah, and you could sense too that they knew how close it was. I mean, with the attitude and the aggressiveness of that beam routine, so they've got to be proud with what they did. I'm liking this routine already. Double pike opening pass. You see she keeps that heel up because she wasn't quite sure how close she was to the line. That's a veteran move, very aware of her placement in that opening pass. Full front layout. Once again, very clean. Again, I can't say enough how difficult it is. I mean, you got to keep in mind that North Carolina competed yesterday, so this is 2 days back-to-back. I mean, that's a lot of gymnastics, very hard on the body. you've got to have that endurance to get through this, and she's doing a good job here in this floor routine. Double tuck to finish, and again, she keeps that heel up. Does some big tumbling, uses up a lot of the floor, but is very aware of where she is. So that's a great performance for Julia on the floor exercise.
And a lot of her teammates hanging around to watch her, even though they didn't qualify. Were beaten by Arizona last night, so they did not make it to the second round here this evening, but still has the support of her squad here. And not a lot of the individual athletes have that luxury. So she gets it here tonight. And you know who also gets it? Michigan and Denver. They get spots in the regional final on Sunday.
Yep, so no surprises out of the Denver regional in terms of the final. All of the top-seeded teams took care of business as expected and are going to be in the final.
Didn't come easy for Denver, though, did it, Ashley?
No, it didn't. They really had to fight for it. I mean, this easily could have went another way. I mean, Minnesota really, brought the heat on vault, especially in their last two competitors, having to be just about perfect to give themselves an opportunity. They did just as much as they could. So, Minnesota definitely should be proud of the effort and the foot that they put forward, but Denver's moving on.
And Michigan, after managing the beam in their opening rotation, they just rolled through the final three to get the win here tonight. The third-ranked Wolverines. And how good were they on the floor? Just tremendous.
They were good. This is one of the highlights of this entire Denver regional thus far. Our only perfect 10 from Sierra Brooks, and I mean, it was just beautiful.
Well, so far across all of the regionals, here are all of the perfect 10s that we have seen. Sierra Brooks, the latest and the first coming on the floor here tonight. There have been a lot of perfect performances to this point, and we'll see how many continue into the weekend with regional finals set for tomorrow and on Sunday. Once more, Steve Schlanger with Ashley Miles-Grigg as we wrap up the second round. This was the final regional to have a second round here in Denver out west, and it ended with some drama there at the end. Denver in their home building having to go all the way down to the very last competitor before holding off Minnesota to get a spot in the regional final here at home. So we've got Denver, Michigan, LSU, and Oregon State on Sunday. First glance at this regional final, what stands out, Ashley?
I think what stands out is it's going to be a battle down to the end. I mean, all four of these teams on any given day could score 198. So, I mean, really what it's going to come down to is who can execute and give as little away as possible. They need to just be in their bubble, stay settled in, and execute to try to earn their team a spot at Nationals.
All right, so the brackets are set for the 2 days of regional final competition. Both Norman and Los Angeles will take place tomorrow, 6 and 8 o'clock Eastern, while Pittsburgh and here in Denver will be featured on Sunday at 5 and 7 Eastern. Here at the Denver Regional, you've got 4 schools in the top 14 in the nation in terms of rankings. Statistically, the toughest region. And 2 teams from this region will advance to the NCAA championships in Texas in mid-April. And as we get set to close things out, now for Ashley Miles-Grigg, I'm Steve Schlanger. We thank you for joining us once again. Oregon State, LSU, Michigan, and Denver. 4 schools battling for 2 spots in the NCAA championship Sunday back here in Denver, Colorado.
Check this double layout out. That is just gorgeous.
That routine was excellent.
That is just mind-boggling.
Unbelievable performance.
That's a superpower.